Yahoo, Prof here, and we're back. What are we back with? Oh, what is this, an iPhone case? It sure is. I'm not too happy with this one. This is the one that you get from Elite Obsolete. Like it's a couple dollars. Nothing crazy. You guys have seen some of the accessories I have. Why are they being featured in here? I may put this on. It fits very, very tightly. Makes it a little bit thicker. The big thing for me is that this headphone jack hole there is actually not big enough for, right here. That is not big enough. If you have a 1/4 inch headphone that has the screw off connector that I have a lot of, those will not fit in that headphone jack hole. But otherwise, this is very similar to a Belkin case I used to have, but that one had a slidey front. I liked it quite a bit better, and a clip on the back. So I might try and find one of those. I think otherwise it was like iSkin was like the go-to brand back in the day for like iPod cases. I think it was iSkin. Why are we bringing this up? And there's no burning on the screen. And the headphone jack is fit properly. Everything is snapped together perfectly. It fits into the case like this one, because that was like his test. He's like, oh, I saw you got that, can you try and fit the other one in there, into there? And it did not fit. Like, you couldn't close it. This one you can, and I know it's very tight because I jammed in the biggest bat you could get in there. Like, it says all the upgrades, and it looks beautiful. I love my little touch there. I think a yellow center would have looked a little too much. And the clear, which is another option, I don't like seeing the button there. So I'm quite happy with how this turned out. I really need to get this synced up and get some music on it. It does have, if you saw the last video, the 512 gig logo there on it, which is what I have in here. You can put a terabyte in there, but from what I've watched and everything, you're going to run out of songs faster than you will, because there's only so much RAM, and there's only so much, a big enough processor and that sort of stuff in here. So you're going to run out of the amount of songs you can put on here long before you're going to run out of storage, generally. Like right now, my full collection unedited of just Japanese music is 270 gigs, 270 to 300 gig, in that range, because that's lossy and lossless. That'll eventually be replaced. And yes, you're like, on my phone, I can get that down to about 50 gig. That same collection, because I use 160, I might even be 128 kilobit Opus. I'll probably plan on doing a 160 because that's like the high quality on YouTube on the phone. But on here, where we got 512 gigs, we're going lossless everything. Also, we got a proper headphone jack. The reason why it really doesn't matter to me to have a proper headphone jack, because I need some sort of USB-C adapter or external DAC with the phone. However, this, being that it has a headphone jack, I do not need anything like that. So, yeah, all the issues that we had before, where we had a little bit of a screen burning, gone, taken care of. There was a little bit of a gap down this side of the shell here, gone. And then the headphone jack was like misaligned slightly, so I couldn't actually get you get like a very slim Apple headphone jack in there, like in here, because it was misaligned slightly, and I couldn't get like the big, like normally what I have is like a 1/4 inch jack with a screw off connector. That's what most of my headphones have. And I definitely couldn't get that in there because it wasn't aligned good enough. Oh, I love the touch though of the. That's why I liked seeing the iPod. You can get these blank, but the fact that he was able to match the size, oh, so nice. Hold switch, that finally went away on the iPhones. Just this latest version, when they gained Type-C, they gained a button instead, but very limited button. I need to open these up already. Make sure I don't lose the additional jaws. So what do we have over here? This is I think it's like a reproduction OEM USB-C or Firewire cable. Because it's got this like cheesy product identification tag on there. It just looks like a repro. Doesn't have the Apple logos on it, which should be on this plug right there. This is, however, not a reproduction Firewire charger. This is an original, and you can see it's got some sticky goo on it, stuff like that. I think it was about 20 bucks. Apple Japan in this case. That means Japan has the same power connector as us, the same pluggy guy. So what I did try and do though is track down originals of these. And this was the cable that came with. This is very much a reproduction from Elite Obsolete. They tell you it comes with a cable. Nothing special here, just a reproduction 30-pin. I myself went out though directly to Apple because they still sell USB 30 pins, and bought 2 of these. One of these is going to get cracked open. I'm going to use one of these to charge. Ideally, actually, I'll use Firewire to charge this because, especially with the big in here, a big battery in there, it's going to take forever over just your standard USB wall charger with the 30-pin. The iPod is actually an old enough device, if you guys are wondering, that it actually does charge faster and more reliably when you have it plugged into a computer, because it actually needs to talk to the computer for charging, whereas when you just use Firewire, because it's using 12 volt instead of 5 volt, it just jams electrons in the battery. That's why it's faster. Now this is a 5.5 gen internally. It can charge off Firewire, but it cannot sync on Firewire. I did track down a new, or I shouldn't say new, an original. It even says like copyright Apple on the cable with the old school like teeth you have to squish. Right? Now I thought this was new, but you can actually see a little bit of buildup. It's going to take a little bit of cleaning here. You can see some buildup on the cable with me scratching it off there. I thought because it's so kinked up in this position that it was new, but it's definitely been used. So you can see some buildup there on that too. The cable is actually a little bit dirty. I'll just give it a clean. It's just nice to know that this is an original. That was when I picked up though. Before I grabbed what's in here. And I'll probably buy this again, what's in here, to have, because remember I said one of these is going to go in the back room, and one of them I'm using. That way, when I finally fuck one of these up, I got to get some, is it Sugaru, because I can't use the little rubber guys that go on cables to protect it, because those fit over like Type-C or Micro B, and then you can slide them down to the Type-A side. You, however, cannot get it over like a Type-A end. So there's this like moldable foam putty that you can use, that people used to use quite often. It's actually quite expensive for what it is. And I told this guy that I would probably be buying this again if these are truly what he says they are. And what these should be is brand new, unused Apple. These are actually an ESD safe. See, it's the pink bubbly wrap. That's ESD safe bubbly wrap. Brand new, unopened, unused Firewire and USB cables, and a dock. And I really want the dock. All right, here, brand new, unused, with Apple labels. And actually, incorrect. These are not Apple labels. Anytime you see that 603 dash, a lot of that's HP, and that's where these actually come from. So let me get out the rest of the items here. So here we have the Firewire charger, brand new, in box, Apple OEM, Apple power adapter, designed in California. This does input 2004 is when this is from. 12 volt, 0.67 amp. That's still more than the 5 volt, 0.5 amp that comes out of the original USB chargers. Now, what do we have here? We have the dock. Gorgeous. Weighted. right? These are not cheap because they're brand spanking new. But like I said, I will probably buy another set of them and just keep them in storage. Now what do we have here? We have the Firewire cable. Or I said Apple logo. Boom. And this is one of the ones that has the clippies, right? By the way, the other thing you'll find is, because apparently the 30 pin is all about wiring, you may find one of these brand new Apple OEM, like OEM bought from Apple ones. They lop off the USB-A end and they wire on a Firewire connector. And then what we have here also is the same with the little pinchy guys, right? With the pinchy guys, except it's USB. Now, how do I have brand new ones from this era? Well, it turns out this seller, like I was dubious, right? Especially after getting this guy. It looks legit. It looks like somebody really just kept it in the packaging, used it a couple times, or always put the connectors back on when they used it. It's definitely like, let's zoom in here. I keep saying like a lot, but you can see the goobers, right? It's definitely been used. You can also see on the cable, it's discolored, not on this side. So that was probably side down. And this end here stuck out someplace. Wherever this was, you can see it's dirty here, like right there. So it's stuck out someplace. Here as well. Like wherever it rubbed was a little, maybe they kept it in their bag a lot or something. I don't know. However, this guy, that's brand new. Brand new. It turns out the seller on eBay that had all of this, I think it was the charger and the Firewire together, like this, and then it was the USB and the dock together, like this. He actually used to be an HP certified like reseller, and at the time, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but 4th gen iPods were available from HP. And that's what HP sold, because back in the day, I don't know if it's because of this necessarily, but this was a thing. Before Apple, Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs worked for HP. And early on, instead of HP, instead of them agreeing or making their own MP3 player, they agreed to sell the iPod, and then on every one of their PCs. This is basically how iTunes got into the, broke into the PC market, was they put it on every single one of their systems they sold. iTunes shipped on it. Yes, I just broke that seal. You can see it's got a little bit of damage right there. You gotta remember, 2003. The other cable is this one's from 2004. Let's try this out. Now, you can probably tell here, remember, all the ones that Elite Obsolete sells, or I don't know if I've said this before, but they're all the slim model. Also, this is designed for a 4th gen, and this is a 5.5 gen slim. But it's definitely detecting the dock. Here, I don't know if you guys can. So it's definitely detecting the dock. I'm definitely, now that I know that these are legit, going to go and buy a second set of original Firewire cable, dock like this. I want to say they were 40 to 50 each for this, but they are original Apple produced, Apple branded, just for HP. That's where you see this orange, right? HP used to tag a lot of their stuff like that. A lot of the part numbers on here are HP part numbers, not Apple part numbers. Yep, just like that. Boom. Locks right in there, really nice. Gorgeous. And you're like, why do you want the original stuff? Well, I know it's not been fucked with. I trust these because I got them direct from Apple, right? These will work. This is probably what I'm going to use to sync the iPod the first time on Chibi PC till I decide how I want these set up. Because of this line out, you could almost want the dock. You'd almost want with just power and line out, right? So it's not syncing then with your computer when it's docked in there. Look at him. Look at him. So I might do Firewire plus dock and then line out to something. Yeah, line out to a pair of speakers. Work would be a good place too. I think at work I'm gonna look for like a more like this is just your very standard Apple dock. That was the one thing that was awesome about the iPod is that with it being around so long and such a standard, the 30-pin connector was actually on like everything. I'm not saying the 30-pin was a good standard. I'm just saying at least like everything supported it. Whereas on the prior to my iPods, I had all kinds of different MP3 players, and even during that, I had like a Zune and stuff like that. I've talked about that before. But the one nice thing, like in the car, all the cars had, before they had USB ports, like a USB-A port, which a lot of them did eventually get, you know, like before they had this guy on there, right? They actually had hardwired 30-pin connectors. Yeah, that even worked later on with the iPhone. Like I had the first gen iPhone, it worked. I mean, it had a 30-pin connector, but it worked. It basically switched just into iPod mode, and that's how a lot of that stuff just worked for years upon years upon years. Oh, let's peel this guy open. Probably going to be doing most of my charging via Firewire because of the giant, enormous battery I would spec for this. I think it's not even the 3,000 watt hour. I think it's like the 3,800 watt hour battery. So it's oh yeah, technically this is a different part, so it's got its own plastic on there because you know Apple always been so eco-friendly. So one thing I'm kind of surprised at is that people make USB-C to 30-pin adapters, right? They do. But they don't make them the way that I think you should make them. And you're probably like, what the fuck do you mean by that, Elliot? Oh, do you see on the cheaper ones? This is just plastique on the older ones. If you went to a MacBook, that would actually be metal for the ground. Because the ground would go in here, and then when you used your cable, you had a ground on it. You could get those same cables, like if you'd rather plug this into the wall via cable, and I may try and track some of that, because I hate the bricks sticking into the wall like that. Always have hated that. But you could use the same one that you'd use on an Apple laptop, and pop that in there, snaps in. You'd actually have a cable coming off of it. I'll probably try and track brand new Apple branded ones of those down. They don't even have to be from this era. They can be just any actual Apple branded one. And you can just see here, brand new on the right side. And you can just see this one's used, dinged up. Not that this isn't trustworthy. I can almost guarantee that they test all these before they ship them. And they tell you it won't necessarily be new. It'll be just working condition because you can't get this new anymore. Well, that's at least what I thought. Till I found it new on eBay. So I'm super duper pumped. And I'm going to pick up another set of these off of eBay right after this video because it didn't have that many more left. And just take like the other, like I said, like the other Apple cable, add that to the back room, and just in case I mess this up, because I can tell you here. You want to see some of the world's shittiest? You think Apple cables now are bad? Look at that seam right there. That's just hard, like, plastic. It's actually a little bit more flexible than I thought it would be after this long. But it's like hard molded in there. So all of these cables are probably going to get black because white's gonna look all dingy. I'll probably use black of that like putty stuff on them, just so that they last as long as they can. I mean, ideally, I never have to go to my backup set, but I can almost guarantee in 3 years, like if there's one seller on eBay selling these new now, will there be any sellers in a number of years selling them on eBay? Who knows? So I'd rather just have some, knowing that I'm going to be... I should have picked one of these up a long time ago. So, you get this in the computer, get it synced up, and get some music on here. This older menu system on the 5.5, that's basically why I went with this. Maybe someday I'll build my own 7th gen, but I am more nostalgic for the menu system on the 5th gen, because it's much more similar, especially when playing music, to the 3rd and 4th gen, and like the iPod mini especially. The 7th gen, it has that like the drop shadow, and I think even the 6th gen technically has that. I know my 6.5 gen did. I just don't like, and they definitely tried to make the menu like more colorful, like as in like there's album art in the background in certain places, and I actually think it's harder to read and harder to see what you're playing on the newer iPods. And that's just been my experience back in the day. So there's many reasons why you might go with a 5.5 gen, but realistically, I think 5.5 or 7th gen, 512 gig are the two options in my mind that you'd want to go with. And your preference there, realistically, is more about which interface you prefer, like which version of the iPod operating system do you prefer, than like what's more compatible and that sort of stuff. Because I think like the 7th gen does better with video, but I don't know how many people actually, like, it was cool back in the day to be able to watch music videos on here, but like that's not what I'll be using it for at all. And for me, I was more into the like the older interface, and I even remember when I got my it was a 6.5 gen, that I was like, oh, I think it's actually harder to read and harder to use, especially in this off state. And you're like, wait, in the off state? Yeah. Because those of you that had a Game Boy Advance, like Game Boy Advance SP, which is like a side lit, not even a backlit screen really. That was a marvel of technology. So if you had enough light outside, you'd want to conserve your battery life in one of these, and a lot of people would run like really no backlight, you know what I mean? Or like look at the iPod mini, like a lot of that stuff with the black and white screen is just designed to work sans backlight realistically. And I'm much more at that vibe. You know, like I just want the information about the song, the less cluttered screen, and I know they tried to spice it up and follow more of the design trends with this, you know, 6th and especially 7th gen. But I don't know. I liked having the extra features, like when I had my 5th gen back in the day. But I didn't like the change that they made to the actual, like how the album art display is always like canted. Why? It's a picture. It's a flat picture. I don't cant my album art in real life either. I put it flat. Like if you had a true album, you sit it, you know, like I do need a stand at some point for that. I might put it up behind my record player, like up on the wall, because I do need a place to put the sleeve while I'm playing it. But yeah, so I thought I'd give you this updated thing. iPod's back. It's all fixed. Gonna sync it up for the first time. I found shortly after I had this other stuff come in, and I wish I would have saved some of the money, because I mean I do have these. There's nothing wrong with them. I didn't know that I could find brand new, so I just wanted to have the Firewire charger, because people were complaining that like with these extended battery iPods, that charging over USB, especially a USB wall charger, just took forever. And I remember that even back in the day. These were more designed to charge off the computer over USB than they were the wall charger, because they didn't ship with a wall charger. That's not a thing. Like you'd get it shipped like this, USB, you know, like dock and a cable, and then this was with older ones, or it was available for charging specifically on these. So and even older ones would have you'd have to use Firewire for charging and USB for sync, and it actually had 2 cables coming out of the 30 pin. That's a really rare and expensive cable. Maybe I'll find one of those one day. But that's for some older ones that, like, when you had the Windows model, if I recall, 4th gen didn't have, like, you could buy a Mac formatted and a Windows formatted 4th gen, but there wasn't like a difference in any other way than the formatting. Whereas in the past, some of them got a bit more picky on that. I remember my dad had that 3rd gen that we regularly used for stuff, and that I used, and like, you had to do certain things with the Firewire. Had to. Like, it wasn't like I can choose to use the Firewire. No. You had to. And then, like, once it was formatted in Windows, like, I believe you had to use the USB data cable. Stuff like that. It was like a weird thing. By 5th gen, it was basically expected that you would use USB for everything. Charge it through your PC, sync it through your PC, USB cable. Even towards the end of it, they started going with the clipless towards the end of its lifespan. Maybe even earlier into it. I personally don't like the clipless ones. I know why they did it. It's the same reason why they make DisplayPort cables that don't have clips, because people try and yank them out because they can't get the clips to pushed in. By the way, DisplayPort cable, if you can't get it unclipped, push it in more, then unclip it, then pull it. Same thing with Ethernet cables. A lot of time it's because you're pulling and trying to unclip at the same time. You're actually putting pressure on the clips, so they're purposely not going to unclip. So you actually got to push it in, push down, then pull it out. Same Ethernet will do the same thing from time to time, because it's like a wedge shape for Ethernet. So when you pull this way, it opens up more and latches in more. So push it in, then unclip it. They're probably like really not needed, but the dock. If you guys have any good suggestions for accessories for iPod Classics, like docks, like cool ones. I mean, I used to have one that had video outs that I could put over to the TV. This is back in Xbox era stuff, not even 360, I don't think yet, or just starting on the 360. And I'd line out to like my little what do you want to call it, like the 2 speakers and the CD player and all that sort of stuff. I'd line out from there to that. Bunch of cool stuff like that. They're all kinds of cool docks, and they got to actually use the proper dock connector, not just like, you plug it into an aux jack on top and it holds the iPod. No. Like, there were plenty of even third parties like Belkin and a bunch of other, Griffin would be another one, that had them all certified that would properly dock just like that thing does right there. Hit me up, or if you've suggested iPod Classic cases, I'm interested. Remember, this is a thin, even though it's like, this is a thin 5th gen, even though it's got 512 gigs of storage. Apparently, they do not need that extra space. Originally, it's like, having watched DankPod's videos and so on stuff like that doing research, I thought you'd have to get a thick one if you want the big bat, and all the other like flash adapters and all that. You'd have to get the thicker iPod, which I was fine with because I always had the thicker ones. What was it, a 60 or 80 gig 5th gen, and then I'd like the 120 or 160 gig 6th gen. I forget which one that is there, but those were always the thicker boys. So I wouldn't have minded that. But turns out if you get the full spec one that I did, it actually has to be a thin model. Which, hey, fine by me. Also, for the most part, it seems like they try to stick with thin models too, because that's what most of the accessories that are still around today are made for, are the thin guys here. Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna go with the case, because here it can't dock. See, that's always the thing. Even today with iPhones, is a lot of the accessories made for them, you'd have to like take them out of your case. And that's why that slide front Belkin I had was actually pretty, because you just slide the front off. It's not like this thing takes a bit to snap it, unsnap. Or you'd have like a sleeved one too. I had a sleeved one that you slid in from the top of the loop, that went over. And if you ever needed to pull it out of your case, then you just unflip it and then you could dock it and that sort of stuff. For now, I think I'm just going to be careful and rock it caseless. But let me know how you think it turned out down below in the comments, or hit me up over on Twitter. As always, I'm out with TheProfosist. Have a good one. Peace.